We are the Hollywood Paranormal Detectives.
Now, what's up, everybody? It is Wednesday night. We are right here in beautiful Hollywood, California, wanting to talk to the paranormal people that you want to hear from. Tonight we have a great guest, but I'm gonna, I'm not always alone. I always got my crew watching my back. I'm gonna call him in. You know what? I'm going with Brian tonight. He's coming in. Bam! And he's gone. What's up, Doc Brown? How you doing tonight?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I am doing very good. Very excited. PEX is almost upon us, Brian.
Yeah, what are the actual dates?
I don't know. They're somewhere on a calendar. You know who knows dates? The smartest one of the team, Miss Mandy Maisie.
No. I was like,
don't
when
know
are we
anything,
going?
Mandy?
September.
September something.
Come on.
September in the teens somewhere.
September 16th or 18th.
That's it. See, Mandy knows the dates.
Somewhere around there.
That's
Okay.
what I'm here for.
Mandy, you were just there.
Yeah.
Warming the city up for you.
Oh my God. It was really, really active.
So the city's wild.
Yeah.
How hot was it right now?
So the weather was beautiful.
Oh.
Like perfect. It was in the 80s. It was praise. It was so
It
good.
was 130. It was beautiful.
Well, when we go up there for PEX, we are going to be joined by so many paranormal investigators. And another one, we're getting the whole PEX team on this show. And tonight we've got, I hope I say his last name right, Joe Vitale.
That's right.
Joe Vitale. What's up, Joe?
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Welcome to HPD Live. How are you doing tonight?
Can't complain. Doing good.
I thought, I got to ask how to say his last name. And I didn't ask.
It wouldn't. I mean, if you got it wrong, it wouldn't surprise you. Like, nobody can get it right. So there's only a few people who actually get my last name right. So
I remember I got Mandy's last name right, and she got very happy. Mandy Maisie.
One of the very few.
Mazzei.
Good for you.
Mandy Maisie.
I would have said Mazet.
That's what everyone says. I get so many different things.
Well, Joe, where are you talking out of tonight?
I am in Bristol, Tennessee.
You're in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yep.
That's nice.
About, I don't know, 5 minutes away from Virginia, right up on that border.
Okay.
So, yeah, not much going on here. Very boring.
I'm originally an Alabama boy. Yeah. I spent a lot of time in Louisville. Drove through Nashville a lot. I like Nashville. I think about moving to Nashville all the time.
Nashville's a cool town. I've been there a couple times. I really like it. But every time I go there, there's always like a huge party going on. Streets are all blocked off. I'm like, wow.
They get a couple of cool old haunted houses that are kind of classic. You move close to one, give some tours, maybe get involved. Right. Might be cool. What are some local haunts for you?
So the closest ones to me is the train station. It's on the Virginia side. I haven't investigated. I don't want to pay the price to investigate that, especially when the claims are pretty iffy. On top of that, it's a functioning train station. A train literally goes through there like every 45 minutes. So it's like, yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. We have the Nickerson Sneed House.
Never heard of that one. Tell us about that.
It's a cool place. It's bigger than it looks. It's just the way the layout is, which the layout is kind of weird too. So you got the original structure, and then they just like built around the original structure. So it's like this weird like donut.
Oh, there's like windows on the inside.
Yes. Yeah. Windows on the inside, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I went there. I've been there twice. One of the guys that I was with, he actually experienced for the first time a full-bodied apparition, which none of us caught on camera. But he kind of like flipped out in excitement, and it was funny. He's like, I got goosebumps, and then he turns around and says, that made my nipples hard. I started laughing.
That's great.
And, Steve, we had an experience with Stephen recently at Nevada State Prison where he saw an apparition. We had cameras on it, and there's nothing on camera.
I mean, I'm holding the camera facing where I'm looking, and I see it and freak out. So I couldn't have had a camera in a better spot, and nothing's on the camera. And we have two other stationaries.
With night vision?
It was on night vision.
Okay, yeah. I think sometimes maybe when we see these shadow figures, I mean, we can see them, but I think perhaps that maybe our night vision may not pick that up.
Yeah.
Whereas if we were just using normal lights, we would be able to see that. I don't know. I'm just
Or is it something like they just put it in your head for a second?
That could be it too.
Bam.
But
well, it's like
multiple people though? I don't know.
Like
I don't know.
Where was it when Nick Groff saw the thing at the hospital that's in Los Angeles?
Yeah, Linda Vista.
Linda Vista. So he's filming the way he's talking, and his footage freezes for like a second, like a glitch.
Yeah.
And so does Aaron's, who's filming Nick. You know what I mean? So maybe they refuse to be filmed.
So I mean, I've had that happen where I'm filming and everything's going fine, and then for whatever reason, the footage gets corrupted.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, what happened? I investigated Scott County Jail, and I was recording. Everything was fine. I mean, new iPhone.
Yeah.
And I was using that just for the interviews. I wanted to try to get through the tour quickly. And I got home, and the data's there, but it's all corrupt.
Yeah.
Yep. That same thing happened to me. With footage that I got on the Queen Mary, and I caught an apparition, a person walking and disappearing, and then all of a sudden the next day the footage is corrupt. I can't open it, I can't do anything with it, and I was so upset. And then it was like 6 years later that finally I just was like, oh fuck it, I'm gonna try opening it up today just to see, and it worked. And so for 6 years it didn't work.
Wow.
So I don't know, spirit's funny.
So many years ago, many years ago, I watched this show around Halloween. Like when you're growing up, kids, you know, you got all like the spooky like television shows that come on, and one of them was a place called the Tavern, where they've spent like 10 minutes or whatever it was talking about this place called the Tavern and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. You know, I was really interested in that place. I was in Michigan. I'm born and raised in Michigan.
Yeah.
But we eventually moved to Virginia, a little town called St. Paul. And about 45 minutes away from us, there's the place called the Tavern. I'm like, oh, we got to go. So at that point in time, Freddy versus Jason had just come out. So me and the kids' mother, ex-wife now, we go to see the movie. We're like, well, first let's go to the Tavern. And we get ready to leave. And I'm like, you know, we're going to a place that's supposed to be haunted to see like this slasher / scary movie. Something in between there has to go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Well, we get to the Tavern. We get ready to leave. And the battery in the car died. Won't start. Yep. I'm like, and then my ex-wife is like, you just had to say it. You just had to, right?
Right.
Now, I went back a few years later to actually interview the owner, Max. And he's saying, you know, every time I talk about this, my microwave goes dead. And then other people have issues, electronic issues and things like that. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, cool. No joke, interview over. His microwave died. And he comes down the stairs mad at me. See, what did I tell you? Every time I talk about, you know, the ghosts and stuff like that here, my microwave goes dead. But he was legit mad at me. I'm like, okay. I take the footage home, and my hard drive dies.
Oh no.
I get a new hard drive, put the footage on the hard drive, done, gone. I'm like, what's going on here? No joke, guys. I returned the hard drive like 4 or 5 times, and then finally, and I'm like, what was that all about? Like, it's
Yeah.
so weird.
I've had something kind of recently where I will take stuff from my phone, I'll move it to the Google Drive, I'll go to move it to the file, and then it's gone. It's not on the Google Drive, it's not on the file, and then it's back on my phone. And then I'll take it again, put it in the Google Drive, move it, and then it disappears again. Like, it doesn't want to get all the way to where I can edit it. You know what I mean? It's like it's fighting to get, it's refusing to go that distance.
Yeah, we had a nightmare scenario when we filmed the Harrisville Haunting.
Oh,
One of our cards got corrupted, and we're like, no, this is so important at a crucial time.
No.
Like, oh no.
now start at the beginning on that. You did a full documentary, not just a little episode of the real Conjuring House, the Harrisville Haunting. Now, who worked with you on that?
So it was funny. What happened was there's a friend of ours, Joe McCarthy, who says to me, hey, I'm going to be investigating the Conjuring House. I'm like, are you sure you got the right place? Because like nobody's been able to investigate it. Like, no, there's new owners, and Keith and Carl, they're going over there, and I'll be going there with them. And I'm like, this sounds a little weird. Well, he was also telling Matt about it as well. But I'm already on the phone with somebody, and I'm like, I want to go film a documentary there. That's what I'm thinking. And Matt gets a hold of me. Now I'm on a 3-way call. Dude, guess what? The Conjuring. I'm like, yeah, I know. So he wanted to do a documentary there as well. So that's what we decided to do. He wanted his team and me to go there and film this documentary. His team couldn't make it. So we're like, who do we get? So I said, I definitely want Billy Cook from PRU, or not PRU, from, what is it called again? I haven't seen his channel going on. He hasn't done anything. Anyways, Paranormal Pursuit, that's what it is.
Yeah.
He's great with interviews. Great investigator. I definitely wanted him to be a part of it. Surprisingly, Matt said, I want Eric Connor. Okay. The way Eric investigates is very different from us. Eric's also very high energy, and Eric kind of relies more on like the spirit boxes, or what he calls a gateway, and other things. But the thought was, for him and for me as well, if we bring Eric along with us, given a lot of things that Eric has captured and things like that, he'll probably be the magnet. Like, it'll probably affect him, not in a good or bad way, just it'll probably gravitate more towards him. I'm not going to give away anything. I mean, I know there's people who have seen it, but that's not what happened at all. So
it wasn't like a team that was already together. You kind of created a group of investigators just for this documentary.
Right. And we didn't want to have a lot of people. I'm always at the thought of less is more.
Yeah.
Of course, that just, for filming a documentary, that makes things a lot harder.
Yeah.
Eric, he's not exactly a videographer or anything like that. He's more of a live streamer. Bill, he's got a little bit of experience filming and stuff like that, but not quite to the extent that Matt and I have. Yeah. So Matt and I, we set the cameras up. We did our B-roll shots, drone shots, stuff like that, and went from there. It was quite the undertaking. One of the things that I wanted to do was, of course, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they're no longer around, but they were not the original people who started to investigate the house.
Yeah.
There was Keith and Carl Johnson. They were the first ones there, and they were like 18, 19 years old to go in there to investigate. So it was really cool to have them a part of it, so they could, give us, the story, what was going on before the Warrens got involved, and
You got them to be part of it too.
Yep.
Oh wow.
So yeah, we interviewed them. We interviewed John Huntington at the time. John had lived there for like a year, and he was experiencing a lot of stuff. Jen, one of the owners, she really didn't want to be in front of the camera, which was fine. So we got Corey to go in front of the camera, and he kind of talked about some of the things that had went on and stuff like that. It's funny because the documentary, you're only seeing part of their interviews. I mean, those interviews lasted a very, very long time, with the exception of one person. But I mean, they were very, very long interviews, and wanted to make sure that we didn't take what they said out of context. We wanted to be as pure as possible. We didn't want to manipulate it and make it it's really, really bad, or anything like that. We just used what we experienced. We took their interviews and made those the points.
I've seen some where people take just a clip of someone saying it was the most terrifying moment of my life. And I'm like, that was a 3-hour interview, and he just took that.
I have experienced that. I was on Kindred Spirits for about 18 seconds, and I was really trying to watch what I was saying because I know how it works. So I was really
not to talk in sound bites.
Yeah, but almost. I was really watching what I was saying, and I had told them. I actually, before they even came out to film this episode at Hales, I gave them I was a couple of gigs worth of historical stuff and people who have lived there and all kinds of stuff. Even in that was articles saying there was never a curse put on the land. Here's what was said. Here's what done.
Yeah.
Well, they went with the curse narrative.
Yeah.
Even I said there was no curse. They didn't put that in there.
Yeah.
But what really got me was I had been to Hales Bar Dam so many times, investigated that place by myself, no fear. Amy says,
that
"I'll
place
never."
Is huge and creepy.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Amy, in a voiceover, said, "I'll never forget the look of fear in Joe's eyes." Now, I wasn't gonna watch the episode. I promote it, whatever, and then people are messaging me and sending me video clips of her saying that, and I'm like, what?
I've been in here 100 times by myself, and you say I'm the scared one.
But it was a great experience, but I didn't appreciate things taken out of context or spinning my words. I didn't care too much for that, but TV.
You've been interviewed on a few shows. You've been on Ghost Adventures also, right?
No, actually I haven't. Thank God. Anyways.
that picture you sent, I thought it said...
It's just, that's from Kindred Spirits. That's from Hales Bar Dam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it might have been coming up soon, Ghost Adventures.
Oh, yeah, it's probably what it was. I should probably cut that out, but...
It's all good. So back to the Conjuring House, though. How do you approach your investigation and your filming different when you're trying to make a documentary than you would trying to just make YouTube content? Like how much, I don't know, how much broader do you try to get or detailed?
So definitely, with my stuff on YouTube, I try to be as transparent as I can. I try to get as much information I can in there. The problem is that everyone has a short attention span, even including myself.
Yeah.
So with this, we definitely needed to be careful. I went into this when it came to filming B-roll and filming interviews and other things. That's filmmaker mode. That's it. Not an investigator at that point in time. That gets shut down unless something happens while we're filming interviews or B-roll footage. Then from there, you start getting into the investigator mode. No longer are we filmmakers, we are investigators. Mm-hmm. And that's me saying that. I'm not trying to speak for anyone else, but that's how I approach that. Obviously, you can see the quality before and even after the investigation, very different. It's of higher quality. However, trying to investigate and film it and making sure everything is coming together the way it should, which it never really does anyways, but it's hard.
Yeah.
You can really mess up the investigation part. I think for me anyways, the investigation stuff can make or break that kind of a documentary.
Yeah.
So the next documentary, there's a lot to learn from this as well. So the next documentary is like, okay, we need to figure out a better way to film these investigations. We can't have it looking like YouTube stuff. It needs to be better quality, better angles and stuff like that. It's
I also
fun.
think
It's
though
challenging.
the cameraman does need to be involved. I think the silent cameraman hurts the paranormal because it's someone you're being asked to turn off their senses and not experience this very spiritual and technical thing that's happening, and to have someone that's supposed to just we're ignoring.
It also feels like, from a viewer point of view, that you're being lied to. That when you can obviously tell there's someone else there that they're not telling you about.
Right. Well, it's funny. I kind of learned of this when they were doing when they were filming Kindred Spirits. Is that they want to make it as if you're there.
Yeah.
Like nobody else exists except for the investigators, and you're just kind of like there to participate, through TV. Yeah. For us, we didn't have a camera guy. I really wish that we did. It would have been so much easier. But you do what you do what you need to do. It was kind of thrown together fairly quickly. We did definitely have time to plan certain things, but you can't plan for everything.
Yeah.
But
how many nights did you have at the Conjuring House?
Only 2.
Only 2.
And that was the other thing too. I always laugh because there's a lot of places that I have been to, and I see other people go to these places, like people like on YouTube, and all these wild and crazy things are happening. I'm like, I was bored. Like none of this happened. Yeah. None of this happened. When you run that risk, though, like there's no guarantee when you go to a place things are going to happen. That's so right. We definitely were worried about that. If that were to happen, then it's like, what do we do? Do we just YouTube content and nothing more?
Well, it's almost like you stretch the history and the interviews is what I do. You know what I mean? Like, if we don't have a lot of stuff, I'll do a long history, I'll do a longer interview and a shorter investigation just because, that's all we had.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I do. If nothing happens, then I'm going to be relying on the history. And that happens a lot. I go to a lot of places, and maybe I get an EVP, maybe hear a sound, but a lot of times, like, nothing. I don't know. Maybe they're afraid of me. I doubt that, but that's just my luck. Now, when Matt and I, when we investigate together, nothing. Everywhere, like, oh, this place is super haunted. Where are the ghosts? Nothing happened. So Matt and I, we're gonna have to be separated when we investigate. He's like the only. I mean, by myself, that does happen. But every time with Matt, except for one occasion, nothing happens.
What's the opposite of a ghost magnet then? Like ghost repellent?
Yeah. But we got lucky. We had things happen, and we also took a lot of things that people had captured and put that in there as well.
Oh yeah.
I wish we could have stayed longer.
There's nothing like that disappointment of coming home from an investigation where all you got was one completely impossible disembodied voice.
I would, just capturing a disembodied voice, I'd call that a good night.
That's the thing. We get kind of spoiled because like only a couple of really amazing impossible things happen one night.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so we did get lucky. Now, I tell you what, going into the history and the craziness.
Yeah.
Matt did some research on it, and I did quite a bit of research. And I tell you, it was interesting. We could have gone down a rabbit hole. That could have been a completely separate documentary, to be honest.
Just about the family and the true story, and then the house before the family.
Well, it would start with Bathsheba. She had no connection to that house whatsoever. None.
Yeah.
People said, they were related, or she was over there. No, she never stepped foot there. Not at all. She lived far away. And of course the movies made her out to be this witch, which she really wasn't.
Yeah.
Some of the reported deaths in the house that never happened in the house. So there's a lot of stories that are just not true, and you kind of feel bad because you're gonna be interviewing the source of that information, and it's like we need to tread lightly on this, and that happens. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Stephen, you've heard of this place, the Chastain House in Blue Ridge, Georgia?
No.
So I was with some friends. They wanted to investigate the house. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, the ladies wanted to do the history. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. It gives me a break. So they did their research or whatever. We go and we investigate. We met the owner, who's a judge.
Okay. And
he was just telling us a little bit of things here and there, whatever. But the what do you want to call him? I don't want to say. We'll say the caretaker.
Yeah.
He was staying on site, and he was telling us, all this stuff. This woman was a witch, and there was a doctor who lived here who did horrible things to people, and just all these crazy stories. And he showed me a picture of 3 women in witch's outfit, and I looked at the picture, and I'm like, wow, that is very stereotypic of what a witch would dress like.
That's Bette Midler in the middle.
Right. So I thought that was kind of strange. Well, we go in there to investigate, unfortunately, because the information given that was researched was wrong. All the information wrong. I went back because I thought this something's none of this sounds right.
Like spooky doctor and witches and evil judge all in one house.
None of this makes sense. So I did research, and I went back to see what the ladies had researched, and all they were doing was researching what other people have said and what they were told, and that was pretty much it.
I like to call it the one layer of Google.
Yeah.
You don't go deeper than the first Google.
Yeah. So I went ahead and I used Ancestry.com or whatever it is and started looking for these people. Well, the one person who was supposedly a witch, this lady, couldn't find anything on her. I mean, I found stuff on her, but it didn't tell me how she had passed away. Now, we were told that people thought that she had put a curse on newborn babies, because newborn babies at the time, they were dying, a lot of them.
Oh, wow.
So they hung her and then buried her in a Baptist cemetery, which I thought was kind of weird.
Wow.
And then it kept happening and kept happening. So they said, the sister, she's now possessed by the spirit of this witch. Let's hang her too.
Oh, shit.
No. That never happened.
That didn't happen?
No, it never happened. Then they said, it used to be an orphanage, and those people were really horrible to the children who were in that orphanage. It was designated to be an orphanage, but it was never opened up or used as an orphanage. And in fact, the people who lived there way back in the day, the Chastains, they were the last.
Huh.
So,
Interesting.
yeah, there was a lot of BS with that. And then I messaged the judge and told him what I found and what I couldn't find, and I never heard from him since.
But do you think so if somewhere like the Conjuring house starts to get notoriety in a town, do you think every scary story from town just starts getting added to that, even if it happened 20 miles down the road? Let's just say it happened at the Conjuring house. Let's just say this happened there.
I mean, we can say for sure that there was one death on the property, and it was in a barn that's not there anymore, just off the road.
Yeah.
But that's it. Now, there was a lot of other things going on there. You had a war going on with the I can't remember the name of the tribe, but you had that whole thing going on, and when researching, now Matt researched this, it seems like that war had happened on the property,
like battles on the property.
There were some other things that didn't get included, such as the whole thing with underground tunnels and stuff like that, dealing with slaves and using somewhere within that area, getting slaves into to Canada to get them free, get them away. Civil War stuff. I mean, we could have went down a rabbit hole also too while I was researching. I thought it was kind of weird. We know how long Ed has been dead.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's putting in entries on some of the people who lived in or around the house or miles away from the house, with somebody claiming to be Ed Warren.
That's weird.
And somebody had went and checked into that, and they're like, somebody's playing around here.
Yeah.
Because this isn't right. So it got flagged. I don't know if anything ever came of it. But yeah, I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah.
That's that location now is kind of, I wouldn't say tainted, but because Hollywood's hit it so hard, people want to hear the Hollywood story, and people aren't going to want to hear that that's not what happened.
Right.
Do you think not to give away the finale, what do you come away as your opinion of the house itself?
I don't think it's the house. I think it's the land.
Okay.
It's not just, there are neighbors who have experienced things as well, which at the time of filming, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we would have loved to have talked to them. But I think it's the land. And for whatever reason, the parents were just, I guess, an easy target for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of have maybe an idea, but it's speculation, and I don't want to say anything that may upset them. But again, it's not like they did something wrong.
Yeah.
But I think for whatever reason, they were just the perfect target. I mean, you think about this too, though. You go to a location, you have a good time, okay, but there's always like a person who says, oh, I've been to this location and whatever's there is not good and like evil or whatever. They experience something very negative.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people are like, oh, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just scared, shrugging them off. But it's like, no, maybe there's a reason why that person experienced that. Maybe they're right, and we shouldn't just shrug them off like that. Maybe for whatever reason, that person was just a target for something nasty to target them.
Yeah.
But then we get into the whole psychology of paranormal stuff like that, which I find extremely interesting.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Well, it all goes into, if an entity in one house is not going to get along with everyone,
Right.
One person at a bar isn't going to get along with everyone else at the bar. You know, it's kind of that too.
Right.
The personalities and the energies. Well, you ever meet someone and you instantly go, like,
Yeah, that's happened.
and then I've met people that first conversation, it's like we're like old friends. Like in
Yeah.
the first few minutes, it's like talking to an old buddy. That's pretty remarkable too.
Yeah.
I bet that can happen spiritually. You know,
I agree. I do believe. I believe you're right. I do believe that. You know, I think too, our mental state has a lot to do with the type of activity that we encounter. You know, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying anything negative about people who may have mental illness. You know, nobody should be looked down on that. It doesn't make them a horrible person, but perhaps, and this is going to sound bad, but perhaps with certain mental illnesses, certain entities are attracted to that because they see that they are an easy target.
yeah.
Yep. But again, it's just speculation. I don't know. I just, you know, just from what I have observed over the years.
Well, it's if someone is emotionally searching for something, whether they know it subconsciously or not, they're open. As opposed to someone who isn't, someone who is kind of set in their ways and stubborn. They might not, like a younger person might be more vulnerable because they're searching for who they are, and then the spirit might try to influence them to who they are and to who the spirit was, as opposed to, you know, someone who's old and lived a lot might kind of know who they are already, and there's no influence in me. You know, I know how I'm gonna react to things.
Right.
So maybe it's youth or even like your energy. What would I call that, Mandy? Spirit, soul, like do you know what I'm saying? Like if you're searching for something, it will try to provide it for you, whether it's good or bad. You know.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Like an aura or something. I don't know.
Something like that. If there's something missing, you know.
Well, like, so a lot of times you'll hear people who are in a dark state of mind will also tend to have attachments as well, you know, because those darker entities or darker lost spirits are attached to that because that's energy that they can use and feed off of, you know. So
right. Now, something that I tell people, but at the same time, again, I don't know. I don't have the answers. But when it comes to like the demonic stuff, people think, well, it's in your face. You can't miss it. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. It happens in the background.
Yeah.
You know, your misfortune. I'm not, now again, this isn't an excuse, you know, that people should use or whatever, but a lot of people's misfortunes or other bad things that go on in their lives, perhaps there's something, you know, behind the veil there, turning those wheels.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed, I've done a couple of demonic cases. I don't like doing them because it puts me at risk and my family at risk.
Yeah.
Most people who have that kind of thing in their life, specifically families, they're divorced. Go look up famous cases of demonic hauntings. Everyone, with the exception of like I think 2, divorced.
Yeah.
The damage is already done. So one of the things that people, you know, who go in and investigate, as long as they, you know, careful know what they're doing, you know, they'll say, hey, go get marriage counseling, go see a family therapist, something, because there is damage done.
Yeah.
And you have to repair that. Now, a lot of people, they're just like, whatever, or they just don't know. And because there was so much tension going on, it causes divorce. Now, again, we can't just blame it all on, like, you know, demon or whatever. At the end of the day, we are responsible, you know, for our actions or whatever it is we have done. So
I don't think I've ever encountered anything I would label a demon.
right. But then
Brian,
again,
do you
how
think we
know?
have?
You know, how do you know?
Things suggest they were demonic, but
Right.
never anything that made me go, oh, it's a demon.
Right.
It's almost like something will call itself Paul, talk to us for an hour, and then when it gets kind of tired, it'll say demon on the ovulus, which is sort of, to me, saying go away. Like,
Right.
I'm done talking to
I'll
you.
scare you off now.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I've never felt like we've talked to anything that doesn't seem to be talking to us from a human's perspective.
Right. I mean,
Mandy.
Oh yeah.
You have?
Oh, yes.
Of course she has.
Quite a few times actually.
Any with us? Have you had one?
Not with you guys, no.
Oh.
you know, but again, we have no idea what we're communicating with.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's something like it always drives me nuts when we're like, oh, I know what, you know, I know what I was communicating with, or I know what it is. And it's like, no, we really don't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have no clue. We could all be wrong. Somebody's right somewhere, but, or at least half right, but we really don't know what we're truly communicating with. It's basically belief. We believe that we are communicating with a ghost or whatever it is.
What helps me is it's like reading a book. When I start to make contact, I almost start to mentally fabricate the person I'm talking to. So, you know, I'll start to get an image of, oh, it's a man, he's older, he's been here a while, or it's a child. But my brain, through the communication, almost like reading a novel that's describing someone, I'll start to get an image of who I'm talking to. Does anybody else start to get that when they start getting evidence?
I know I don't.
Yeah, that's not my experience, but Mandy, you actually can see them. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't really develop it, just kind of whatever comes to me. So, I guess my viewpoint's a little bit different.
Well, it's almost like more evidence.
But everyone,
yeah,
everybody's different, right? So, like, the way that you investigate or the way that you interpret information is going to be different than someone else, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm just wondering if that's just something weird. Almost like as I start getting answers, I start seeing who's talking.
yeah,
So
and
it
I mean
helps me
that's also
talk to
too a lot. And see, that's where a lot of people start to get in their heads because they think that like they're making it up or they're like fabricating it. When a lot of times everybody's sensitive, everybody has the ability to do this kind of work, right? But not everybody is going to open themselves up enough. But I feel like if you are open enough, spirit will start to imprint that vision into your mind. And so what you're seeing when you're getting EVPs and like, oh, it's this old man and this and that, most of the time is spirit showing themselves to you, but you're just chalking it up to your imagination.
Well, and now that I've got you to confirm it, it's even creepier.
So, I mean, I've had people say, "Oh, you're sensitive," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm insensitive, but I'm not sensitive."
I'm one of those. I refuse to believe. What was that, Brian?
I said I'm mildly passive aggressive. I don't know if
I don't think I am, but then people will say, you chase something twice every time we go somewhere. You always cry. You always get touched. You always see this. You always see that.
I'm just going to tag on what Kindred is saying. I do think Steven is clairvoyant. I think that he does have abilities, and I do. But, you know, you're human, though, so you get in your own way.
Well, define clairvoyant for me, as opposed to a mediumship or something.
Yeah, so clairvoyance is the ability to see. Everybody sees differently, but for me, imagine it like spirit will sometimes show me, it's almost like a movie reel in my head, like a movie reel. I see images from spirit of things. So that's essentially clairvoyance, the ability to see spirit, right?
Well, I absolutely had that when we were with Patty at the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
We were telling the same story back and forth about the same person. I was describing a girl, and I'd be like, she has a brown jacket with like
you're
leather
seeing
tassels, And then Patty would say brown hair, and I'd be like, yes, that's exact. I was about to say brown hair. And then as I did this, and she goes, and a yellow barrette, and I go, a yellow barrette. I was pulling my hair back with the barrette as she said a yellow barrette, and I was like, Patty, what have you done to me? I'm seeing all this stuff.
I mean, when I go to a place to investigate, I know the stories, whatever. I go in there. This isn't haunted. It's got to prove to me that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I'm going to go back to that location. So whatever happens when I go there the first time, that will determine how I go about investigating the next time I go.
Okay.
Joe, do you drink energy drinks at all, or do you stay away from those because of your heart?
The only bad habit I have when it comes to drinking is too much Mountain Dew.
Okay, do you have any, have you tried, or do you drink anything before investigations? Like
a lot of Mountain Dew or water.
I don't know if I should encourage this, but I want to tell you, because you are sensitive. You are sensitive. I want to tell you to raise your vibration when you go into a location, so that way you can have more experiences. And a lot of the easiest way, the simplest fucking way to raise your vibration is to have some sort of caffeinated beverage.
Mountain Dew's got plenty of caffeine in it.
Mountain Dew's got plenty of caffeine.
But I typically find that energy drinks more so than anything.
Yeah, that's like the difference between a soda and a 5-hour
can
energy.
really help. You don't need to drink the whole
Matt
thing.
drinks energy drinks like crazy. I'm like, dude, that's gonna kill you. Like, and I'm like,
we still want that Red Bull sponsor. Where's that Red Bull?
Red Bull sponsor.
But yeah, that's just how I learn.
Yeah.
Going in, you hear the stories, because I believe that if you go in there and you're hyped up, you may accidentally manufacture, without knowing, having paranormal experiences. I've seen that happen, where people are like, oh, I heard all kinds of crazy stuff about this place, and they go in there and all kinds of crazy stuff happen. But then I watch their footage or something like that, and I'm like,
you ain't got nothing.
No. It's like, that sound was from, this person over here, because I remember that happening. And they're like, no. That happened at a different time. And it's like, no, we have footage of that.
Well, that's the saddest too, when you think you've got something and you go, no, that was me coughing.
Yeah.
I was in the other room.
It's also amazing too how much you actually forget. Like when you go to a location, you come back and you go over your audio and you're like, whoa, what was that?
I always say no. I don't think anyone other than the 3 people that were there could edit the footage. You have to have been there to remember the car horns and remember, every burp and fart that happens while you're standing there. So especially with me and Brian, we burp and fart a lot.
So it's funny because I'll even for myself, I have digital recorders, stuff like that going. I'll go back and I'll listen. I'm like, whoa, wait, what was that? But then I'll go look at video footage. I'm like,
Well, we haven't done this. Let's take it back. Let's take it all the way back to a young Joe. How did you get first into the paranormal and spiritualness and stuff? What was the first experience or first thing that exposed you to ghosts or ghost hunting, or even just the ghosts are real, or the want that ghosts are real?
So the very first experience I had was actually I had forgotten about, but it wasn't until my aunt had actually mentioned it. Now, there's a 1.5 year difference between my aunt and I. We grew up more like brother and sister. So my mom's cousin was watching us, and she took us over to her place. I'm a little guy, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. And I'm already kind of freaked out a little bit because I've never been here before. And I don't even know who this woman is. I feel like I
Yeah.
couldn't remember who she was. All I know is family. So we go to her place, and she's like, "Oh, you should go check out the tub. It's huge, and it's got claw feet and stuff." And that sounds a little scary to me. Like
Yeah.
claw feet, I'm thinking
Claw
like some
feet.
evil claws.
It's gonna grab
Right. So, I had to use the bathroom, so I went upstairs to go use the bathroom. I seen this tub, and I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of freaky."
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, in midstream, I heard a woman yell, "Get out."
Oh my God.
I was confused at first
Jeez.
because I thought maybe it was my mom's cousins, but it came
Yeah.
from the bathroom. Well, I ran out of there. I don't think I packaged everything up either when getting out of there, right? So I come down the stairs and I'm like, "Oh, there's a lady at yelled at me in the bathroom." She heard it. My cousin heard it because she's like, "Who was that?" I'm like, "That was a lady in the bathroom." She's like, "There's no lady in the bathroom. It was probably the neighbor."
Oh, the cousin heard it also.
Yeah, and
Oh my
my aunt. So I'm like, I'm freaking out
Yeah.
because I didn't see anybody in there, and she's like, "Oh, it's just the neighbor." Well, then we heard what sounded like somebody coming down the stairs onto this landing, and yelled again to get out. 10 seconds later, we were gone. We
Oh my
left.
God.
And that was also my first memory of my grandmother being uber religious. She had just got into like Christianity, stuff like that. So she was like all about that. So it was always, it was demons. It was a demon. And
Oh no.
I remember
Yeah.
a little bit of the conversation that was being had, just a little bit, because we went to my grandmother's house. And she's like, "You need to go over there and you need to put your foot down and you need to tell the devil to leave. And it'll leave. All you got to say is in the name of Jesus." Da, da, da. And I'm like, I was just a kid. So I'm like, "Yeah, do that. But I don't want to go back."
She's
so-
telling you to go. Oh, you 5-year-old, you go over there and you tell a demon to leave.
Well, she would say that too, though.
Okay,
I mean, like,
Grandma.
so it was funny. But we ended up, so before I even get into that, my grandparents, they owned a home. My grandfather actually had it, a custom home built. He actually did the brickwork on the home. Now, this is a subdivision. Like, there was nothing crazy that went on before that. There wasn't like some like big war or like lots of deaths or, nothing like that. But I remember going to my grandparents' house. This was on my dad's side of the family. The other was on my mom's side of the family. But we go over there and like, I would like, this is going to sound so stupid. And even right now, me saying this, I'm like, "God, this sounds so dumb. Why am I sharing this?" I had noticed this hand that was coming up from a vent. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, like just stupid. And I remember just watching. I didn't know what it was, but I remember just watching this stupid hand come up from a vent. And
Really?
my grandmother says to me, "What are you looking at?" Now the whole family's looking at me. And again, I'm just a little guy. And I'm like,
Like from a old timey on the floor grates, you're seeing a hand
Yeah.
come out.
yeah,
Oh shit.
And I don't know, maybe it was an overactive imagination. I don't know. But now I got the whole family staring at me.
Yeah.
And there's a hand coming up from that vent. And they thought it was cute. "Oh, wow, he's got quite the imagination," and just blew it off. I never seen it again after that.
Wow.
Now, my grandfather, he's a bricklayer. They moved back to New York, and my aunt and uncle, they ended up getting the house. One of my uncles stayed behind. He had mental illnesses. We'd hear these stories. Now, I didn't hear these stories firsthand, but they ended up having to have one of my uncles who was mentally ill go to a home. They were afraid of
Yeah.
him.
They're afraid of
here's-
him, or he was
yeah.
afraid of the house.
Well, they were afraid of him. He was schizophrenic and had other things going on.
Oh my.
So, again, this is a hand-me-down story. My aunt went to get this uncle to come downstairs to have dinner. She kept calling him. Finally, she had to go up into his room Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but said that he was like levitating like a couple of inches off the floor. That freaked her out, and then that's when they were like, "You got to go." They move out.
So the schizophrenic uncle was levitating.
Yeah, like a couple of inches. I'm not talking like way up in the air or anything like that. Just apparently a couple of inches. Again, this is a story that, I heard from my dad and my stepmom. So,
But that's a story within family. There's nothing to try to impress there. He's not getting money or anything. That's just, those are the most genuine when you're sharing them within your circle. So,
and the thing too was my uncle Joe was like, there's something going on in the house. There's like weird stuff going on in the house.
Yeah.
But my Uncle Joe, he's the kind of guy who's like, if he tells you a story about him just sitting on the couch, just sitting on the couch, it turns into like this big epic like movie or something. He was just, he had like a super huge personality, and we're like, okay,
he's good at describing stuff.
Yeah, well, probably way too good. Exaggerates. But they move out. Some other people came to live there. Basically, it was being rented. They left. In comes us. Now, at that point in time, I completely forgot about the spooky thing that I had seen. Come.
How old are you at this point? You're moving in.
This point, I was 8 or 9, I think, something like that. So we move in, and I do remember the house. It felt like it was already occupied. Like, somebody was already there.
Yeah.
I started to notice weird things kind of going on. Kind of blew it off like, just an imagination. So for a couple of years there, not much was being said, but things were going on, but it wasn't anything substantial. So, I'm now starting to become a teenager, and so my parents, my dad and stepmom, they were getting ready to take off somewhere for the night, and they had my stepmom's sister come and watch her baby sister. Mm-hmm. Every kid has house chores, whatever. So I'm in the kitchen. I'm sweeping up the kitchen, and we have this thing that hangs up on the ceiling that holds wine glasses. Okay. One of the wine glasses just came down by itself, broke. I'm like nowhere near it. I'm like, what happened? It wasn't shaking. It wasn't anything. It's like it's been there forever. What happened? Yeah. Oh, my stepmom thought I knocked it down, thought I was lying to her, and I got in trouble, told, go to my room, stay there, whatever. I'm in my room. My 2 brothers, they left for the weekend to stay with my mom. My stepbrother, he went to Pontiac, Michigan, stay with his grandmother. So it's just me and my baby sister. I'm upstairs in the bedroom. We have a huge walk-in closet. I think it's a huge walk-in closet. And I hear 3 knocks, just little tiny knocks. I'm like, what was that? Open up the doors, look, thinking, maybe it was my stepbrother or something. And I realize he's not here.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I close the door, turn the light on. There's about a 1/2 inch gap between the floor and the door, thinking I'll be able to see somebody's, feet or something, a shadow.
Yeah.
Showing somebody's going to be there. So I'm just chilling on my bed, playing with silver hawks, whatever.
Yeah.
And I hear it again, but a little louder. And I look over real quick. I didn't see anything. I thought, okay, that's weird. My aunt comes up the stairs with my baby sister. They're like doing makeovers or whatever. And I told my aunt, I'm like, something's knocking on that door. My aunt stands there for like 5 seconds. Oh, no, it's just your imagination. Grabs whatever from the bathroom, do their makeovers. As soon as she started to head down the stairs, then 3 knocks really loud. I'm like, nope, I'm out of here.
Wow.
Now, looking back on that, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back on that, That's the very first time I ever tried to debunk something.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so, you know,
You went in, turn on the light, close the door, look for feet. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then from there, it kind of progressed to actually seeing figures, shadow, like really tall, really big, like dark, shadowy figures.
Oh,
My stepmom never wanted to be left alone in a house or in the house. Before my dad had finished the basement, make it into another room, my stepmom was using the basement to build this dollhouse. This dollhouse is freaking huge, man. That's like, if you stand it over on its side, it's like 4 foot tall. No, it's actually longer than that, actually. It has stood like 3 foot high. She didn't want to be alone in the basement. Somebody had to be there with her. She's like, oh, come and hang out in the basement with me. I'm like, why do I want to do that? I want to go outside and play. I didn't realize that she was actually afraid. So over time, things kind of fell into place. My stepbrother was the one who actually said something to my stepmom, that him and my sister had seen this figure thing. Now she's starting to question me. Hey, is there anything going on? You know?
Yeah.
You experiencing anything? So then I'm like, yeah, you know, these things are going on. And also, too,
I can count the stories I've heard where like one person brings it up and everybody else is like, of course we are. Well, I'm seeing things every night. Like everyone seeing stuff, but no one's talking.
So, yeah. So, yeah, there's kind of like this family conversation about it. And, you know, what else has been going on? Now, at that time, I was having a hard time in school. I was picked on, things like that. But then I had to come home to a house being haunted, not really saying anything. Well, not at that time saying anything. Yeah. Now dealing with that, because now it's like, how do I, the best way to say this, I guess, is little whispers in the ear, you know, like you're nothing, you know, you should, you know,
yeah,
take yourself out, you know, just all these negative things. Wow. So I was dealing with crap at school and then coming home to that. So again, at the time I didn't realize it, but looking back, you know, quite a few years later, it was also psychological.
Yeah.
My dad got pinned down one night, being choked. He had bite marks on his wrists and his feet. And
pinned down by an entity.
By something.
Oh my God.
And I remember getting up one morning and seeing my dad neck just tore up.
Oh my God.
And he's, you know, kind of trying to hide it. It wasn't until much, much later when we were told what was going on.
Yeah.
Have you talked to them afterwards as more of a grown-up about how serious it was?
Yeah. It was funny. The kids' mother, they knew about the house, you know, being haunted and stuff like that. But then she actually got to hear it from them too, which kind of freaked her out. Whatever was there, it's not there now. I mean, there's still weird things that happen, and it would freak the kids' mother out. Nope, I want nothing to do with that. But honestly, I wanted nothing to do with the paranormal. Like, I was terrified of it, but I was also being pumped full of it's the devil, it's the devil, it's the devil. Now, while that stuff was going on, once everyone was open about it, trying to figure out what to do, you know, my grandmother's like, just, you know, oh, the devil can do this, the devil can do that, the devil can do all these things. I'm like, just ask for Jesus. I'm like, well, what can Jesus do? Like, okay, he walked on water. That's cool. He did stuff with you know, making water into wine. Is that all he's got? Because this other dude over here sounds like a total badass, right?
This thing is scratching my dad, and I want Jesus.
And that was scary. So, yeah, they had the house blessed twice, I believe it was. And then after that, it's like little things here and there. But I wanted nothing to do with the paranormal. Like, anytime somebody said ghost, I'm like, nope. No. So, real quick, as a teenager, we would go to like Denny's, you know, act like grown-ups and drink all their free coffee.
Yeah.
But that didn't last long. Denny's had enough of that.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, his name is Bill. He was kind of teasing me about the house. He gets up to leave. He goes to use the bathroom. He runs into some friends along the way, and then there's people behind us, and one dude gets up, walks over to me, and introduces himself. His name is Bill. It's like, yeah, I heard your friend talking about, your house being haunted and stuff like that. And I'm looking at this dude. I'm like 13 at the time.
Yeah.
And this guy's, he's in his 20s. I'm like, is this guy like trying to kidnap me or something? What the hell's going on here? Like, I didn't want to talk to this guy.
Yeah.
He kind of questioned me a little bit about it, and I wanted nothing to do with him. And it's like, oh, maybe we'll take you someplace that we've already investigated that we know is safe, and you can talk about it there with us. Basically, trying to put me into a safe environment.
So he was an investigator, and he was trying to get access to your house.
Well, he wasn't trying to get access to the house. He just wanted to know more about it. Now, perhaps maybe that was floating in his head.
Yeah.
Maybe we should see about this.
I don't know. Every time I hear a story, I'm like, I want to investigate. Like,
Yeah. And that probably was going through his mind. But I'm like, nope, go away. So, like 2 weeks later, something like that, I'm at the gas station with my dad. My dad heads in. I'm standing outside the gas station. Believe it or not, children, air conditioning in cars wasn't always a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there, and this guy's like, "Hey, you remember me?" And I look over, and I'm like, "Oh no!"
this Ghost Hunter guy.
It was like my dad's going to be coming out of the gas station at any given time. I just want this guy to go away because my parents didn't want anybody talking about stuff like that to other people.
Yeah.
The neighbors would think we're crazy. So he's like, again, talking to me about this. I just want him to go away. And I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. He's like, oh, here, give me your phone number, and we'll go from there. And I'm like, okay, give him my phone number. I'm thinking I'm not going to hear from this guy again. Now, a week later, my dad's like, hey, some guy is on the phone for you. Hello? Hey, it's me, Bill. And I'm like, oh, no. So I agreed to go with him.
And it was Bill Murray from Ghostbusters.
I want to have like, yeah, okay, I'll go, whatever. And then I'm like, what am I supposed to tell my parents? These guys at a haunted house and what? Like, I didn't know what the hell to say to them.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, "Who's that guy on the phone?" I'm like, "Oh, that's my buddy's dad. I'm gonna go spend the night. I'm gonna make sure it was cool or whatever." So yeah, and then I went. I did talk about what went on in the house, and then I went again.
Yeah.
And again, I kept it quiet because if my grandmother had found out too, though, geez,
Yeah.
I would have been beaten with the Bible. So, and I just continued to go. And then one day, was a couple months later, they're like, all right, Joe, Bill, master bedroom or wherever it was, go investigate there. I'm like, wait, what? What? I'm like doing this?
I'm trying to get the thing I don't want to see at my house.
Right. And the very first question that I asked for an EVP session was, are you still alive? Exactly the first thing I asked. I was nervous. I felt silly. So
I love
it didn't sound silly until I thought about it for a second.
Right. It didn't. I didn't know what to ask. So now I'm hearing the guy I'm with, Bill, he starts laughing, and I'm like, I don't know what to ask. He's like, no, that was great. Did get a reply though. It said no.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and then I just continued to learn. There was no TV shows.
So you started very young then.
Yeah, I was 14.
Very cool. Very cool.
Be 30 years. So, and just ever since then, now I've taken breaks and stuff like that. Having kids and other things go on. But yeah, I've been at this a long time. I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of silliness.
What do you think the big change was? When did it go from tape recorders to now there's websites with equipment?
So it's funny. what was it, 99, I think it was. Got our first computer, able to get online. And I'm like, I wonder how many paranormal teams are out there. So I did a search. Keith Age, his group, if anybody doesn't know who Keith Age is, he was on a couple of documentaries with the Booth brothers. Probably like the more famous of the documentaries was Spook the Ghost of Waverly Hills. So he had his team on there. There were a couple of other teams, including ours. We did have, like, I wouldn't really call it a website, more of a forum. It was the 90s. So even TAPS.
Yeah.
And I remember clicking on that. I'm like, oh, hey, these guys, who are these guys? It got silly, though. It started to get silly once the paranormal TV shows started coming out. Not necessarily aiming at like TAPS or ghost hunters, but like the other ones that started like using of like the crazy equipment and stuff like that. It lights up and makes sounds. It's a ghost, and people rely too much on the gear. And I look at a lot of gear. Yeah, I'm not going to tell people don't use it. By all means, please use it. The silliness is that people will sit there and say, well, I put out all this equipment, it all went off. What does that tell you? It tells me it's all made out of the same shit. That's all it tells me. They all have an EMF detector or whatever in there. That's all it's telling me. I think it's silly to see people jump to that conclusion. Oh, it went off. I wonder why it went off. And then it's like, oh, ghost. When it's like, no, like EMF is all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's natural. EMF, even not having any electronics around that equipment, EMF, it's a change. They pick up on change.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how big of a change it is, it's going to pick it up. A lot of the stuff that's used, like you can have an EMF spike happen like really, really far away. Like some of the EMF detectors will pick up a spike like 100 yards away.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, that's pretty far away.
Yeah.
And they don't bother to go try to figure out the source or whatever, which is hard to do. If you get a spike like that, it's going to come and go. So, I can't blame them if they can't find that source, but to just immediately be like ghost. It's like,
but it's also like, how many times can you think of you're walking through a house with a device and it goes off and you kind of just think nothing of it and you keep walking.
Right.
But then sometimes it goes off at the same time you feel like something's, you know what I mean? I feel like the tech and the spirit have to like work together. Because I can count time, stuff has gone off, whatever. But then stuff goes off like, oh, that's something. Like, the difference almost.
Right.
Well, I don't consider it. I'm sorry. So I don't consider it paranormal unless it interacts with me.
Yeah.
I ask questions, direct responses, and then say, oh, and just to let me know you're here, trigger that device over there, and it triggers that device over there. Then I know something's there.
Right. But
we not getting direct interaction. It's just a piece of equipment.
Right. Yeah. But if that energy is moving, when we'll just say it's natural energy, then that could also set those off as well, and it just so happens, and I hate to say this, could be coincidence.
Yeah.
And again, this stuff that we use, it doesn't tell us anything other than, again, it makes a sound or blinky lights. Battery drain, oh, my battery drained. That's impossible. It was completely charged. And I can think of a lot of things that had caused the battery to drain without it being a ghost.
And batteries get old, they
degrade. There's actually, I haven't seen anybody bother to check, the the grounds of a place, like, you know, digging up a yard, not like massive digging, but to check what's underground, because there's a lot of things underground that are conductive. Also, the best way, how can I really explain this? When you have the sun beating down, right, the ground gets hot. That heat gets absorbed into the ground.
Yeah.
Well, after a while, that energy, that heat has to be released somehow, so it's gonna go outward, and that can cause a lot of things to happen too, such as battery drain, an EMF spike. They can even make a light turn on, not by the switch, but just lights will just turn on, and it could happen real quick, or it could, you know, happen a few seconds. So I always tell people that there is a difference between a paranormal investigator and a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
On my channel, because I don't have the resources or the time to like spend weeks at a location, this is ghost hunting. However, when I am actually investigating and researching, that is a completely different ball game.
Yeah. That's kind of why we went with detectives, paranormal detectives. Like, we're trying to find evidence. Like, we're trying to use any means we can to collect data. And if that data, what is that data telling us? And what direction is it putting us?
Right. But also, I'm going to sound like the bad guy here or something, but
no.
You know, with data, nobody's really doing anything with the data. It's not being shared. It's nothing. Like, nothing is going on with it, and it's like nothing is progressing. Yeah, and we need to have that progression. I mean, quite honestly, all of the gear, with the exception of like certain little things or apps, been around forever. Yeah, for as long as I can remember. I mean, we used to roam around with EMF detectors and all kinds of other things. It's just now it's repackaged. They put a sticker on it like, hey, it's for ghosts. Yeah. So that it's frustrating. And I remember talking to a scientist who was actually, which was weird, but he went for his own amusement. But not just I, but some other people. We were talking to a scientist about this whole paranormal thing. And he said to me, man, paranormal investigators and ghost hunters, whatever you want to call them, have no business investigating this. We're like, what? And he literally, he kind of backtracked just a tad bit. Yeah. He said, no, you guys are too stupid. And then kind of backtracked. He was like, well, you're not educated enough. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of a asshole thing to say. Yeah. And then somebody wanted him to elaborate on that. And he's like, okay, orb photos, orb videos, battery, like naming all these things. Yeah. And here are these explanations. How come nobody in your little field is talking about this stuff? And he says, you know, we take the paranormal serious. We just don't take paranormal investigators serious. He's a, you know, hop on YouTube. Watch all that stuff. He's watched a lot of it. And he's like, either these guys, you know, it's entertainment, or they're not really getting into the science of the phenomena or explaining why certain things could happen, like such as battery drain. Yeah. I knew about battery drain long before I talked to him, but so I could understand where he's coming from on that. Yeah. Now, whether anyone thinks the show's legit or not, but The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. I love that show, but at the same time, sometimes I kind of feel like a genius listening to them. And the reason for that is a lot of the things that they are experiencing over there are things that not just me, but many others have experienced dealing with, like, what we perceive as ghosts or spirit or whatever. But they're doing this looking for answers on the whole UFO phenomenon. Yeah. And it's funny because I'm sitting here watching this, we're like, oh, you know, what's going on here? Why is the batteries draining? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And I'm like, You guys literally dug up that land and found shale and other minerals that are conductive. The next episode.
Yeah.
Why is this conductive? Because you guys, like,
Yeah.
did you guys not realize that that stuff is conductive? You guys are scientists. You're supposed to be really smart.
Yeah.
And you're like wondering why this is happening. Like it hurt my brain.
But it's also like no piece of equipment or anything is as strong as like I said with your dad, an eyewitness who has nothing to gain. That's your best piece of equipment, is an actual experience. So a real experience that happens in the middle of the day to someone who is not an investigator, is sort of like that's more valuable than anything we could do with any equipment.
Right. Now we have scientists who are taking the whole UFO phenomena very seriously.
Yeah.
Why? Because there was actual evidence.
And they're allowed to now. They're not laughed at anymore.
Yeah, because there was actual evidence put in their face. Now they're looking at it and they're investigating it. Whereas for us, we don't have evidence of ghosts or anything like that. We don't
Nothing
have
tangible. We have nothing
Right.
tangible.
Right. We don't have the data. We don't have anything like that to present to them so that they can get on board and, work with us.
But we do have those genuine eyewitness accounts,
Right.
which is unexplained. And that's sort of like, whether we understand it or not, that's now our obligation or joy to go in and see if we can prove that genuine experience, true or false, kind of.
Right. Now, that is something that I had said to this guy. I'm like, well, we have these people who they have this experience. They never experienced it before. There's so many people like this, or they're people who have had multiple experiences. And then, the answer to that was, well, who was there to witness it? It's just a story. And I'm like, there was a witness, or there were a couple witnesses. And I'm like court cases, people go to jail or put to death based on eyewitness accounts.
Yeah.
Like, really? Yeah. Wow. But there are scientists who are studying the paranormal phenomena. There's a university in Virginia that's studying paranormal phenomena.
Really?
They ain't talking to us.
They probably ain't seeing all the cool shit we're seeing then.
I mean, they're just going about it a different way. And of course, they're not going to share their information or knowledge because this is basically what happens. Somebody hears, well, this is what they discovered. This is what they're finding out. And then they go off and they run with it. And then everybody's like, oh, look what they found out. And then the person gets like a TV show or, I don't know, internet famous or whatever, because they have taken knowledge from somebody else and used it as if it was theirs.
I feel like if anybody wanted significant proof, and no one who, like us, has the ability, would be an extreme long-term investigation. Like, if you have somewhere like Mackey Mansion that is proved to be haunted, like, put it under surveillance for a year, and if things manifest, and if EMF happens, and if voices happen, you're going to have a year's worth of completely documented stuff. Like, that would show. Also, put a house next door under the same observation to show the difference. This is Mackey Mansion. This is a house too. Both observed for a year. Mackey Mansion, we saw this, we heard this. This went off. This house did not. If both houses get, the same amount of shit, then it's fake. But in that long-term investigation, that'd be like the dream. If I had $1 million to prove ghosts were real, it'd be a long-term investigation of a place that's legendarily proven, sort of.
And that is being done. There is the documentary, The House in Between, Part 1 and Part 2, where they have been investigating this house for 15 or 16 years or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I know they did that Australian prison. They investigated for 2 years. And I guess some movie's going to come out. Some documentary about that's going to come out.
Yeah.
And they say they have proof.
And, I like what they're doing. Yeah, it's taking a long time, but they're actually investigating, and they're bringing experts in different fields out there to do. I don't want to give away their documentary, but to do certain things. And it's funny because they actually had a geologist come out there, and this woman had an experience that she didn't want to talk about because she didn't want to be laughed at by her colleagues.
Yeah.
So the documentary is really slow, but there are other things that were said in that documentary where it's like, thank you. Because a lot of people give, like, the people who, like these ghost hunters who are on TV, they give them a hard time, and it's like, you really need to talk to these people. They are really smart people. They're very, very, they're brilliant. And they don't have time, filming, an episode to do all these crazy things. They just, it's made for TV. Yeah. Go in, they investigate a place for a few days. Whatever happens, on to the next, as Jason Haas would say. But, I've personally talked to Dustin from Ghost Hunters. That dude is smart. And he has you won't believe, just how, I don't even know how to describe it. Just, broad of, how he, looks at the paranormal. For him, it's a spiritual journey for him. And then, oh geez, what's her name?
But it's also with any of us who've been doing it. You've been doing it since you were in your teens. Anybody that's been doing it a long time, you've gained, whether you know how the device is made or how the EMF actually works, you know how to use it. And like I was saying before, a real blip and a fake blip, because of that experience in the field and being in different haunted places, and then being in a place like your normal home or a normal place that's not haunted, and knowing when you're in somewhere haunted. You almost can't recreate that in a lab. That's the robot pilot versus regular pilot cartoon story. They always do. They can't always react the same way.
Right. Elizabeth Saint.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Very smart, though. She's an engineer. She's an electrical engineer, I believe. I know she's somewhere in that realm.
Yeah.
There are things that she was saying, and I'm people really need to hear this.
Yeah.
What they're saying is true. We're not getting the TV show of these people. We're getting away from that and them giving, their actual thoughts and opinions on different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My feeling has been, you ever see those movies where they have the robot or the AI that can only answer certain questions? I kind of feel like that's what we're getting more when we get spirits. We're not getting a person who's invisible sitting in the room. We're getting kind of a torn remnants of a person's energy and consciousness, and only a little bit of it's left hovering where it was energy wise, and it can only answer certain questions, and it only knows certain things because it's not a person saying yes or no. It's just a little bit of a leftover.
There are people who believe that we're not really dealing so much with human spirit or whatever, but more of a consciousness.
Yeah.
But over time, that consciousness kind of just dissipates and kind of forgets.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I could be right. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish I really did. Yeah. And that's what's great about this field. I mean, we all have our own belief and the way we do things.
Yeah. But
we don't, we really truly have no idea. I mean, there's only one way to find out, and I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for a while longer.
Well, I mean, it's cool because the possibilities are endless, right? And nobody will ever be right because nobody will ever truly know until we get to the other side.
Right.
So
that's
people like us.
I say until I'm locked eyes with someone who wasn't there a second ago, and I go, "Are you a ghost?" Yeah. Are ghosts real? Yeah. and then they disappear, like I won't be satisfied. Like I want no one to be there, manifest, ask those 2 questions, disappear. I got it. They're real.
I mean,
my proof.
there are people who believe that aliens are just messing with us. You never know. Yeah. I mean, you never know.
Bates toothbrush.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, bag of worms. Joe, it is 9:30. We have gone way past our bedtime. You're way past your bedtime.
Is it 5 a.m.?
It's PEX coming up for you. What else is coming up? What does the future hold for you?
So we have PEX, and around that time is when advertisement for the Harrisville Haunting starts coming out.
Cool.
So that'll be, I can't remember all the platforms. It's going to be on a ton of platforms. The main ones is iTunes, the Google
great.
Play Store, Amazon Prime. It'll be all over the place.
That's great.
I'm excited about it, but I'm also sick of it.
Yeah.
We also picked up a couple of wins at a film festival, and we have more film festivals that we need to hear from to see if we get in or if we win. So, I mean, that's pretty much after PEX. It's just the whole thing with the Harrisville Haunting on October 18th. And after that, I want to hide.
Yeah. Very cool, sir. Well, we will see you at PEX, and thank you for joining us tonight and sharing your experiences and sharing I really love that you shared the way you, from a personal experience to a random encounter, and just sort of were drawn into the paranormal field. That's very, very amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and have a great night. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, Joe.
Bye, Joe.
Bye.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now those were some good stories.
That was
what we're
interesting.
looking for in the paranormal tales. Everyone watching, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to Joe's stories with us. PEX is coming up. Go to the link tree in our bio for everything: t-shirts, hats, notebooks. Look at that HPD notebook, guys. We got our own notebook.
You can take notes. Professional paranormal investigator.
I can take notes just like the pros. So for all of us here, Patreon, all that good stuff, we love you. Come see us at PEX, buy a t-shirt, do all that good stuff. High five. Say goodnight, Brian.
Good night, Brian.